Alright, I hope you are doing well today, my friend. Today we are going to see something not that hard and not that long, but so important when you work with a 3D software like Blender. Okay, so you need to understand that Blender is a 3D software, but it's not alone, right? You need to be able to work with other 3D software, okay? But the problem is each software has its own format. So it's a fucking nightmare, and today we'll see how we can use standards to export and import anything you want from Blender. Let's go. Alright, just before to begin, my name is Roman. I'm a shitty English speaker, alright, with a shitty French accent. But I hope I'm doing a little bit better in 3D so you can follow me. So let's go. Alright, here. Oh, sorry. Alright, here. So I go in Blender here and I will explain to you how you can export and import anything. So before to speaking really about import and export, I need to explain you what format exists, right? Okay, so you need to get that in the 3D industry, you have two types of format. You have the format, that 3D format that represent edge, faces, and vertices in the world, and you have like images format, that the format you use when you render your file, okay? And so here, right now, today, we are specifically speaking about 3D format, okay? Format that can use to be shared across 3D softwares, all right? Not about image format, right? We are not speaking about rendering your images, like for example in PNG or EXR, right? It's not the point today. Today it's 3D format, all right? So we have two types of format. We have like the format that is used by the software itself, all right? His native format. For example, Blender is the .blend, right? And each software has its one, right? For example, 3ds Max is like 3ds, Maya is .mb or .ma, depending if you're working in binaries or in ASCII. Cinema 4D, I don't know, I think it's C4D maybe, I don't know, you will tell me. And Houdini is HDR and whatever you want, okay? So each software has its own format, okay? Its own way to write information, write data in a file, okay? But the problem is that, of course, the software between each other don't know how the others speak, right? So for example, if I'm in Blender and I want to get some data from Maya, Blender do not know how the .ma or .mb is written, so it can't read it, right? So to move around this problem, the industry created some format called standards, all right? And standards, it's some format that saves some data that can be understood by all software. So it's really useful, and this is what you are going to use to be able to, for example, read a Maya scene in Blender, for example, okay? Or to be able to import anything you found on the internet, for example, in Blender. So what are these formats? There is two really useful and really famous formats that use for this. The first one is OBJ, okay? OBJ. And the second one is FBX, right? OBJ, FBX. OBJ, it's an open format written in clean way, so you can open it and read it with like a text editor. FBX, it's a format created by Autodesk. So Autodesk today own Maya and 3ds Max, sorry. And FBX is not an open format, it's not a clear format, it's a binary format. So you can't, if you open the file with your text editor, you won't understand the thing, okay? So OBJ and FBX. There is way more, but this is the two most used today, okay? So I will show you how we can use them, how we can export some data from Blender in OBJ, in FBX. I will explain you how you can import some data in Blender in OBJ and FBX, and I will show you after how you can use other formats like GLTF, USD, and other stuff to just be able to export and import anything, all right? So let's start. Right now, the menu in Blender to import export is here, File, Import, export. And you have all the formats you can use in Blender, right? So look at this. The two that I was just talking about, it's FBX, sorry, and here wavefront or OBJ, right? So let's start with OBJ. So how can I import something in Blender in OBJ? Freaking simple. You just click OBJ and you find a file that is .obj, right? And practically every model on the internet you will buy or download will have this format because it's so standard and so known, right? So let's check one here, right? So I have this. All right, I think I need to have something. Okay, right. Okay, cool. Let's go. And this is what I got, all right? A little barrier, all right? Okay, so this is that simple, all right? So what about the option we have here, right? Let's check again, okay? So I check the OBJ. So I take the OBJ, not the MTL. The MTL is that the information about the shaders, all right? I will come to that just a bit later. So just take the OBJ and you have some stuff here, okay? So let's talk about it. All right, you have the scale. So it's like, do you want me when I import the model to scale it up or scale it down, right? So if it's number, it's less than 1, it will scale down. If it's more than 1, it scale up. It's like a ratio, right? But what I want here is specifically to speak about this here, forward axis and up axis. So you need to understand that Blender, it's a little bit of a bitch about this, because every other software except 3ds Max, but 3ds Max is a bitch too, all right? So every other software in the industry have the y-axis on up, x-axis on the side, and z-axis on the depth, right? Y up, x side, z depth. But no, not Blender. Blender puts the Z up and the Y in the depth. So this is really annoying because when you import from other software, your object will always be like this and not like this because you switch the X and the Z and the Y axis. So this here, forward axis and up axis, is meant to switch back your object to be sure that your object will be in the good orientation from the world here. But it works because my OBJ will at the time this OBJ was made in Maya, so it works. But if this OBJ were exported by 3ds Max without checking this, for example, because 3ds Max has the same orientation as Blender, you will have your object in the bad orientation. So you should be careful about this, but not by bad. But what you can do here, you can check this box, split by group here, right? You have split by object, split by group, and vertex group, all right? Okay. You should always check the 4 of this, all right? Why is that? Because split by object and split by group, depending on what software you use to export your OBJ, will extract the different object information before importing it. Okay, so how do I explain this? Sorry, you didn't see my screen here. This is these 2 options here, right? Split by group and vertex group, right? So specifically, I'm speaking specifically now about these 2 options here, split by object and split by group, all right? So certain software like Maya use the group system to separate objects, all right? If you already use Maya, it's like you have like folder and this is called group and you can use to do anything you want. It's really useful. So you use group to separate object, right? Even an object itself, it's a group, right? It's so often we call them the group and the shape, right? The shape in the group. Okay. So if you use Maya, you know what I mean. If you don't use Maya, you don't know, but it's not a problem. But any other software here use not group but object to separate data, right? So what we are going to do is we are checking both of them. Like this, we are sure that the object will still be separated, right? Because if you have, for example, an object that is composed of, I don't know, 1,000 small objects, you want them still to be separated in your Blender file, because if not, you will have your object with like 100,000 shape, you know, but only one object in your outliner. It will be a fucking nightmare to separate again, okay? So just do that, be careful, and just check the 2 of them, all right? Vertex group, it's a data really, really useful to use when you want to do, for example, skin or any other stuff that transfer data per vertex way, okay? I will not be like too specific about it because it can be useful in various of ways, but just get it if you want to save some data per vertex, anything, all right? You can use vertex group with it. You're not obliged, but you can use. OBJ understand vertex group. So you can check this if you want to have the vertex group if there is one on the object. All right. So just check all and you're good to go. Import data. All right. So it's a possibility that your mesh that comes with your OBJ is a little bit weird like this. You know, it's like it seems like a little bit like bad, and this is because by default, often the OBJ has not the right normals in it. So the normal is like your phase direction, right? And so the normal here are smooth, right? But for an object like this, I think I want more at auto smooth, right? But you see that it does not work, right? You see that it does not work, okay? Oh, sorry, it's because I did not select it right, okay? And now it's way better, okay? So be careful, know that when you export and import an OBJ, often your shading space normal, so if your normal are hard, smooth, or auto smooth, will be lost in the process, okay? But you just need to right click auto smooth or flat, depending on what you want, right? Okay, so this is the system how you can use and import OBJ. But what can you put in an OBJ exactly? An OBJ, it's really simple. You can only put mesh data. So an OBJ, it's vertices position, right? Location, edges location, faces, all right? UVs, all right, and vertex groups, and that's all right? You can put an animation in an OBJ. You can put particles. You can put shaders. You can put material, only material name, but you won't be able to have the nodes in it, right? Just the material name. You can't put, I don't know, whatever you want, whatever modifier you did, or it won't be in the OBJ. You can apply them before, but you can't have the procedural non-destructive system in your OBJ. OBJ is just pure mesh data, okay? Data. All right, so that being said, this is how you import an OBJ. Okay, but how do we import an FBX? And you will see that FBX can be way more flexible because FBX can understand animation and not OBJ. So you can put animation in FBX, you can put skeleton, skin, a really complex rig with like blend shape, etc. will work in FBX. Okay, so let's try that. Let's see how it works. So file, import, and here FBX, all right? Exactly the same way, okay? And here in my FBX, I go here, okay, oh, and I have the same object in FBX format, so it's really cool. You see that when you use FBX format, you have way more option here, right? And this is normal because FBX understands a lot of more steps of the workflow, right? So you need to have more option, okay? So you can choose if you want to import, for example, your animation, right? Your armature, right? You will see that armatures do not work the same between software. For example, you here have in your leaf bones here, and this is because Blender and Maya do not understand the bones exactly the same way. And so often if the FBX was created with Maya, you need to check this in your leaf bones here, because if not, you will have one bones more than in Maya, because Maya, a bone is just a point, and Blender, a bone is a head and a tail. So it will add you a tail, but in Maya you didn't have a tail because it's just a point. All right, so just a little bit weird, but if not, it's okay. You just do this. You can automatic bone orientation if it's not good. All right, but to be fair, it depends on your model. It depends on the software that you export the FBX. So here you should try an error to see what is the best for your model. All right, this is not an exact science because it depends of what settings did the person put when it export its FBX, and I will show you how you can manage that too in Blender, but this is in the second part. So here, just don't worry about it, just practically every time check in your leaf bone if the model comes from Maya, for example, but the other stuff, just ignore it for now. All right, so you can see that I can orient sorry, my model too, but often the automatic way to passing from one software to another works pretty well. You have the scale, all right, and you have here custom normals, subdivision data, custom property, and this is really cool because you can have the subdivision data here. For example, you can have a subdivision smooth from FBX to Blender, and this will work. This will be transport as a subdivision surface modifier. This is really cool, really cool. All right, custom properties. So if I created custom properties in Maya, for example, I could have them in Blender and reverse. So really cool. And there is a lot of other stuff to like make sure your FBX is written correctly, read correctly, right? Read, sorry, is read, right? Okay. So, and you can check your color space for your vertex color. Often it's linear in the other software. It's linear. Often, not always, but often. So, same thing. You need to check it. But don't be too afraid of this. That's not a big problem. 90% of the time, you just let it as default and it works, right? And so if I say import FBX, right, I have my element. Oh my god. Oh, okay, so bad. Okay, my FBX is an ASCII one. Okay, so this is the way to explain something to you. When you export in FBX, especially in Blender, especially from Maya and 3ds Max, I think you can use two types of FBX format. There is the FBX binary, the standard one, and you have the ASCII one. So the ASCII one is the same format but written in text, right? So often the other software importers don't understand the ASCII one. They just understand the binary one. So it's why here it doesn't work. It's because I'm using an ASCII FBX and not the binary FBX. I can show you if you want. Check this. If I go in my element and I just go here, so what was it? What was it? All right, barrel. All right, okay, sorry, it's French, my bad. Huh? And if I open the FBX here, you will see that if I open it with like a text editor, right, it's just text. You see, just text, right? I can see what is going. I can read it. This is the data that is in the FBX here. You can see here, for example, we have like the object calling off, and this is all its vertices, right? So we have the data in clear. This is ASCII format, but Blender do not understand ASCII format for FBX. It understand only binary format. So let's get something that is not ASCII but binary. Let's see what we have, what we got here. All right, for example, here is it? Oh no, it's Blender. All right, okay. Is it like binary? It's binary, right? You see that is binary because I can't read the data in my text editor here. So the good Jack FBX. Okay, right. Okay, let's import it. So file, import FBX, right? Just copy this here and good, all right. And I can just close it. All right. Okay, and here this was a pumpkin, right? And so this is my my mesh, and so you see that I have the shaders, all of it. The FBX is a format that is really useful to import most of the things we can use in 3D, but there is still some limitation. What's the limitation are in FBX? First of all, in FBX you still have the shaders, but you can't have the nodes in it. The FBX don't understand the way of nodes work because every rendering engine is different between software. So it can't save the node. So it saves the shader, what we call the shading group, right? In Maya or in 3ds Max. In Blender, it's called just the material, but it's the same thing. So it saves the shading group, its name, but not the content. It do not save how the nodes works together, etc. Okay, you will lose this. Other thing it can't give, it's like all the rendering parts. So no light, right? The light won't be in it, and no render setting extra. This one don't work. This won't work. All of the, I think, particles don't work or work really bad, and all of the stuff that are really specific to the software, all of the stuff like that modifiers in Blender, all the simulation, rigid body, etc. won't work in FBX. But FBX will work for the main stuff. So modeling, often really cool. Subdivision modifier, it works. Shader name, it works. Animation, it works way more. Skin and skeleton, it works. And this is a fucking huge part. If you have a skeleton that is skinned to your mesh, it will work, right? So it's pretty awesome. Not a lot of format can manage that, and it works not like, for example, albembic that I will explain later, that creating a cache for each frame. It's not this. FBX actually saves the skin, so the data that is used to deform each part with each ball. Okay, so if you don't know what skeleton and armature and skin is, don't worry, but it's really cool. So FBX can understand this. This is a really good way, for example, to use FBX to export animation, for example, in a game engine like Unreal Engine, right? So really cool, okay, really cool stuff. So FBX, personally, I really like the format FBX. For me, it's a really cool stuff. It's not that heavy, it's not that heavy, and it's really close to the data that you have in your software when you do modeling and animation, okay? But once again, you can't export your shaders, right? But sorry, that's the way it is. Exporting shaders to another software to another, it's a fucking nightmare, and I will explain this why in the end. Right now, I want, before to explain you what other format exists, I want to show you how you can export from Blender, okay? Because you just see how to import some stuff in Blender from other software, but how can I export something from Blender to be used in other software? So, all right, let's do this. So what I can do is to export something in Blender, it's file export. Crazy, right? And here you have the same stuff, wavefront and FBX, right? Just to be sure, if you don't have FBX here and here, don't worry, don't panic. You can have it in Edit, Preference, and you just go in your add-on and you check that FBX is here, right? And here you see FBX format, right? If not, no, you can get it with get extension here, all right? So extension is you have a faster way of export to FBX, okay? So it's like a system to manage add-on for Blender with internet connection to be able to install stuff from the internet without going to on Google. So it's pretty good and pretty well done, but add-on is the old way to install add-on locally. This is like from the internet, but same stuff, right? Okay. So now that we have all, let's start with wavefront, so OBJ. OBJ, I come here, export, and here I come on, right? And I go in OBJ here. So I need to have an object to export, right? So let's try with Susan. Okay, so this is Susan, right? And I export it, okay? So export OBJ, right? And here you see that in the exports option, I have way more option because this is not option for the format. This is option for Blender to do stuff before exporting it, right? For example, so it asks you what you want to create. So this is specifically always good. So do not change it, right? You need to have your UV and your normal. It's okay. And the only stuff you need to check is apply modifier. You need to be very careful here because if you have a subdivision surface on your mesh, often you don't want to apply it because your mesh will be really heavy and often you want to use the smooth system of your last software, right? So now you remember grouping, just check all, right? You need to have some, not smooth group, but you need to have your group here that are correct. I have only one object here, so it won't make a difference, but if I have different object, I want to check this, right? You can check your material. It's, if you check it, Blender will create another file that's called MTL format, and the format MTL is just a file that gets like pairs of shading group name, object name, right? So it can make your life a little bit easier when you are going to redo your shaders, because once again, your shaders can't be exported, right? And once there is something really interesting here. It's like animation, right? I just said to you, OBJ don't understand animation, so why Blender is giving me some animation, right? So this is really cool. You can't put OBJ animation in an OBJ, but what you can do is you can create a sequence of OBJ files that are each OBJ for one frame, and so it works. It's a little bit like what we call a cache, right? So what is going on here is that I will create one OBJ file per frame, and each frame will be like, where are my points when I'm animated, okay? So it's really heavy, not that much like optimized, and the FBX way of doing this is way better, but if you have to use an OBJ with animation, you can use this, right? Okay, and last part, you see that when I export it, automatically Blender change the forward axis in -Z and not Y, and up axis Y, right? This is not a coincidence. This is because I said to you, Blender when it exports to OBJ want to be in the standard of orientation of other software. Okay, so this is really cool, and you can check selection only if you want to export only your selection or your scene. All right. Well, for me, I have only one object, so it doesn't matter. I export it in OBJ. So let's check a path. So for me, it will be in my temp directory here, and I will call it like tuto.obj. Right, and this is done. I export it, and now I will re-import it in Blender, so you can see it's exactly the same stuff, right? So file, import, but of course I can do this with any other software, right? Temp and tuto.obj and tada, right? Okay. So you can see there is a little bit something off to it, and I don't know why it's doing this, but often the OBJ just rename my files, right? And I don't know why it's doing this, but not that big of a deal, right? Okay, so right now we have this, but we still need to see how to export in FBX. So let's see. All right, monkey. So let's export this to FBX. Export here, FBX format, and you see that you have, once again, a lot of more options, because once again, Blender can do stuff before exporting your file, all right? So here, it will be, once again, tuto by .fbx, right, FBX. And you can, of course, limit it to select object, visible object, active collection. So this is like the stuff, you know, this is not that really hard, so I think you get it. But what you mean to check, it's okay. Here you can see what I can export it. Oh, we can export lamp. This is a really good stuff, all right? You just need to press shift to add more, right? So often you want to export all you can, right? But if you want to export only your mesh, for example, just check your mesh, right? Okay. So it's shift to select more, right? You can export custom properties, like I showed to you in import one. You can have the custom properties. So custom properties is like you add some stuff in your meshes. You add some properties in your meshes. It's really useful in rig, right? But I will not enter in the details. If you are not advanced user, you probably don't understand that, but don't worry, it's okay. But it can be useful, so check it, all right? Once again, Blender is really intelligent, and so he inverts the forward and the up axis, all right? So you don't need to use it. And here, this is really cool. You don't need to do anything. All is good, all right? In the geometry, here, you have to do some stuff. Okay, so first of all, once again, the apply modifier, be careful with that, because if you do that, it will apply your subdivision surface. But this is cool that when you do that, it does not apply your armature. Right, because once again, your armature modifier, so the system to deform your mesh, is understood by FBX, so it won't apply it. But like it say, warning, it prevent exported shape keys, because often your modifier will modify your number point, and your shape key need to work in the same number point. So often you need to disapply this, right? Often. I have export subdivision surface. So this is really cool, because the export subdivision surface will export your subdivision level in the FBX format, like I said to you before, and will be used in your software to smooth your mesh with your smooth engine of your end software. So really cool. And you often want this to be checked. So you don't want this to be checked, but you want this to be checked, all right? And the other stuff you don't need to check it, all right? And you specifically don't want to triangulate your faces, all right? The only reason you want to triangulate your faces if you exported this mesh for geometry and simulation data for video games. But even there, often your end software can triangulate itself, so don't do it, because once it's triangulated, it's a fucking mess to come back and triangulate data, all right? And armature, right, you don't change anything, because this is once again the standard, and we are lucky because your orientation of the world in Blender is not the standard, but the orientation of the bones of the armature are the standard, so it's okay, all right? And here you see that he add leaf bones. This is the thing I was explaining to you later, is that in Maya and Blender, you have two different ways to have bones. And so here you can add leaf bones to Maya, get exactly how your bones are in Blender, right? So you need to leave this checked, especially if it's for Maya. And here you can export your animation and just check all, it's okay, it's all really cool. And this is really, really good stuff, right? So awesome. And animation is so complicated data, and this works really well. So this is really, really cool, right? And so you just need to do export FBX, right? Okay. So right now, what I'm going to do, I will just make a little animation on my monkey, so we can see that we have animation in our FBX file. So I move it, I press I here, I move it here, and I just do that. All right. If you didn't see my course on animation in Blender, just check it. I will put it right there, right. My God, I fucking got here, right? Okay, and you can just watch it and come back if you are lost. But to be fair, what I did is really simple. So you press I, you move your object, you press I, all right? So I have some animation, and so let's export this to see how it understands and how I can re-import it to see how it works, all right? So file, export, FBX, tuto, export FBX. I delete it and I re-import it just to see how it went, all right? So FBX, temp, tuto, and I check, I let it by default. Like I said to you, this is really cool. You can just let it by default. Often you can check subdivision data. If you add subdivision, I didn't have it, but if you have one, it's cool. And import, right? And here I have my animation, okay? So you see that your animation is not exactly the same, because when you export your animation, FBX, what it's doing, it's baking it, all right? So it didn't use your mathematical function. It just put a keyframe on each frame to be sure that every software understands the same thing, because of course every software have its way to interpret the mathematical function between the keyframes, right? So you will have that. So this is a little bit of a problem, because to modify this in your graph editor, it's a little bit of a mess, you can see, right? Not that good. But if you want, you can just take all your key here, and there is stuff that can clean, right? Channel here, clean. Okay, where are you? I never know where is it. Clean. Oh, maybe now it's density, right? Oh yes, it's density, all right? This is new and this is cool. And so you see that moving the density of the key, I can come back to my original one, right? Of course, this is not like a real science. You can destroy your animation doing that, so be careful, okay? All right, this is the stuff I wanted to show you in the basics format, all right, for FBX and OBJ. But this is not all, because I want to speak about about other formats that can be really useful for some specific stuff. So one of the formats I want to speak about for you is the albembic format. So the albembic format is really useful because it is something that can export absolutely anything. But I don't speak about it a lot because it has for me a major down. It's that it exports anything in cache way. So for example, you want to export water simulation, you can export it in albembic, no problem. But each frame will write in the albembic file or in one albembic file separate, that's the problem. Will write like your 100,000 points for each frame. So your albembic will be fucking huge, okay? So it works fine, but my advice is to not use it too often because it can be really huge on your disk. So for example, if you want to export a simulation like rigid body or water simulation, etc., you don't have a choice. You have to use albembic. This is the only way you can do it. So do it, and it will be heavy, but it's okay. But if you have like animation from an armature and a skin, just use FBX. It will be way less heavier. But you need to be careful because FBX only exports the skin data. Okay, how my bones move my meshes, right? And export blend shapes or shape key. But if you have some other stuff like modifier, shrink wrap, close simulation on your data or whatever you want, this won't work in FBX, and so you need to go in albembic way. Okay, so how do we export in albembic in Blender? Really simple. You just file, export, and it's ABC, all right? And this is exactly the same stuff. So there is no need to go to really need to do. You see that the options are really similar. So just let the default and export, and it's okay. All right. And this is not hard to import it. You just import and Alembic and export Alembic. Exactly the same stuff as the other way, right? And this is what is really cool with Blender. It's the way to import, export is practically exactly the way depending on the format, right? So I want to speak about you of other formats. So we saw each other OBJ, FBX, FBX, sorry, and ABC, so Alembic. But you have another one that is really cool, is GLTF. GLTF, it's another industry standard, specifically used for the web, so the 3D on the web, but it can be used for anything you want. It's pretty much understood by every software, and FBX is like really cool. It's pretty much has the same possibility as the FBX. And I personally use FBX just because I'm used to, but tomorrow you need me to use GLTF, I think I will have no problem to use it because it's a really good format too. GLTF, and you have the binary equivalent GLTFB, so it's a little bit more heavy, less heavy on the disk, but they are the same, and the two are really well understood by the software. So GLTF, you can use it too. Other one is USD. USD is pretty special because it's a format created by, if I don't say anything bad, Disney. And Disney wanted to have a format that can be used in any software to understand anything, right? Shaders, nodes, scene, scales, whatever you want. But to be fair, today, the implementation of this format, USD, is still struggling. It's pretty recent, so the project behind it is really cool, really interesting. But the implementation of it's really recent, and so it's not that to the point yet, right? So if you take a USD from Maya with complex stuff and you put in Blender, there is one chance on two that still will break today. So this is not, or let's say, mature. I don't know if mature in English is mature. It's not that ready yet. But it's a really good project, and I'm really excited to see how it will go in the future, right? So you can try USD, like everyone wants to see if it's better. Of course, the basic stuff works, like animation, like all the FBX and GLTF stuff works in your USD, don't worry. But for example, if you want to, I don't know, export like water simulation or hair simulation or stuff like this, it can be pretty hard to USD too, and so you will have some stuff that will be missing, so be careful about it. But the project behind USD is to be able to use only one format for every software, USD one, for everything, okay? So it's a pretty, let's say, large goal, right? This was a goal of Alembic like 10 years ago, but like you said, it's pretty much failed because today Alembic is just for meshes animation. You don't even get your shaders in Alembic, right? Back. So yeah, USD, I know it's a big part of the USD is to get the shaders back between software. So we'll see how it goes, but it's really hard to do because you need to understand that every render engine has its own nodes. So how do you transfer them? It's a nightmare, right? So yeah, but I know that software are trying to do, and they're trying to get like some the equivalent. For example, if I put a ramp in Maya, an iron ramp for Arnold, how do I transfer this automatically in a color ramp in Cycle for Blender, for example, in Eevee? So it's not that easy, but it's slowly getting there, so we'll see. All right, so this was the video on the different format to import, export anything you want in Blender. All right, I'm not finished yet. I have something bonus for you, because I know that there is something really hard when you export and import stuff. It's not only to import or export the stuff like OBJ, FBX or anything. It's to import or export the texture too. So the texture is the images used to put the color on the file, on the model. I know it can be really hard to see and to know which texture go in which shader slot. So let me show it to you, because when you know it, it's freaking easy. All right, so let's check that. All right, so how do we use the textures when you import the stuff? So here I have a rock that is like an FBX one, and I have some texture array, okay? TGA, it's an image format, don't worry about it. So how can I use this, okay? So you need to understand what does this mean, right? So we will have often in the texture world, in PBR texture world, 4 textures that we can use. The first one is the diffuse one. The diffuse one is the color of your object, all right? Diffuse equal color, all right? The second one will be the normal map. The normal map is the details that will reflect the light on your object, all right? It's like small hole or small bump, all right? Normal map. It's a weird texture, normal map, because it's like blue, red, and green. You will see, right? But normal map is really important. You will have the, maybe, not always, but you could have the ambient occlusion. So we'll see how to use that, right? And the last one, but really, really useful, the two last one is roughness and metalness, all right? So the roughness is, does your object is rough or not? And if your object is rough, your light reflection will be more blurred, right? And your metalness is, does your object is a metal or not? Because you can have some part of your object that is metal and some other part that is not, right? And if it's a metal, your reflection, your object will be 100% glossy, so reflection. If it's not, your object will be like glossy mixed with some diffuse, right? So it could be a little bit weird if you don't know how PBR shader work, or if you're a beginner, but don't worry about it. Just I will show you how you put your image data in your shader, and all will be okay, and you will not be able to see, oh, what the fuck. Okay, it will be really easy. You'll see. So here, I'm on the shader. This is my my file. So I will just let this here, right? And I will just take my FBX and just import it, right? So I just copied this. It's file path, okay? So file, write, import, right? And oh, there is my fucking head on it. Sorry. Okay. File, import. I thought that was not a big problem just before, right? So import and FBX, right? Okay. And here I just take my file, Control V, and workflow FBX here, okay? So now this is importing, okay? Oh my fucking god, it's an ASCII FBX. My god. Not cool, man. All right. Let me get another one. All right, okay, I found another one. So we'll take our old drum just before, because I didn't see it, but there is like two texture on it, so I can show you and explain you how they are going to be able to be used in Blender, and how can I use other texture too. You will see. So once again, file. So I'll just take my here alldrum.obj, right, and file, import obj, right, and I just take, okay, Control V here, all right. And so I can just put that away for a moment. And so if I go in the shader editor of my object here, I just take the corner, drag and drop on the top, and here I go in shader editor, right? So you see that it's trying to keep it, right? And this is way better than I imagined before, because before it won't work at all. So it's fucking, oh yeah, it's fucking miracle, right? So I can see that the MTL path is really better and better these days. So cool. So imagine you don't have that, all right? You just have this and you don't know how to use it, okay? And this will really often happen. So this is really simple. In the base color, you put the file name diffuse or color, right? So here, this is this file here. You have underscore color for color, right? So this file here, you just put it right here, all right? So, okay, let's just import it, all right? Image, and open, and color here, right? So this is my image, okay? I can see what it does just being in render, right? Okay, just put this here, right? If you want to know how I can just put directly, this is pressing Control Shift left click with the add-on node wrangler activated, but this is not the point for today. Okay, so this is my diffuse, and so the color I said go in base color, right? Always. Be careful, your color should always be in color space sRGB, all right? I will not explain why today, because it's way more advanced than this tutorial. But just to know, if you have some color, right, color data should be in color space sRGB. Any other data, roughness, normal map, bump map, any other data should be here in non-color, right? Okay, so here I put this here, and I have this. I will just come with like a default world of Blender, and this is what I got. Okay, this is not that bad, but let's see, it's a little bit flat, right? And this is because it's missing something, and what is missing, it's called the here normal map here. Okay, so how do I put the normal map? The normal map will go here in the normal slot here, all right? So if you have a normal, right, NOR for normal, just search image texture. Once again, you open it and you go take your normal map here, all right? Be careful here, your normal map by default will be in color space sRGB, but a normal map should be in non-color, all right? I can see what it is, and I said to you it's a little bit weird, right? It's like blue and purple color. But this is data that explains Blender how to reflect light at the pixel level, not at the face level. So it's really useful to add details. Look at that. If I put this on the normal here and I add it, this is fucking shit, all right? And this is because you can't just plug your normal directly in the normal map, because this is what we call normal in tangent space, right? But this take normal in object space, right? Don't ask me why and why is this exactly. This is not the point of this video, and this is a little bit more complicated to beginners. So, but just to convert tangent space to object space, you need to add a node that is called normal map, right? And this will take tangent space data to put in normal data here, and this is work well, right? Look at the difference: tangent space, object space, right? This is not the same. Tangent, object. All right, here. So now I have something that is really cool. I have some data and some reflection, and it's really cool. But to be fair, my data here is a little bit missing because I only have a color and a normal. But in real life, in a real life situation, you will obviously have another one called metalness and roughness, right? So I don't have them here, but I can show you where you would plug them in if you had one, all right? So your metalness should be plugged in metallic here, all right? Your metalness color, your metalness texture should be plugged in metallic here, and should be always be in non-color data, all right? Your roughness should be plugged in roughness, right? Crazy, I know. And once again, roughness and metalness are not colors, so they should be plugged as non-color data, all right? And this is it. This is it. You have nothing more to do. Your object is imported in your 3D software, Blender, with the good texture on it, and so the shader is over. All right. Okay. I think I hope you love this stuff, and that you get some really cool thing about it. If you want to learn more stuff, if you want to have a way to create a movie, okay, an entire movie in 3D with me, freely, you can just click here, all right? It's a lesson that I just recorded, 7 days or 6 days, don't remember exactly, where we are going to do this movie, this gladiator movie. We are going to create the characters, we are going to rig them, to animate them, to render them, to learn anything you need to create your first movie entirely with Blender. I hope you're interested. If you are, just click here, entirely free. You just received the lesson by email, all right? See you there. Bye-bye.